Hello and welcome to the Bundesliga show, the predictions version ahead of match week 20 of the Bundesliga season.
Yes.
Yeah, another week moves on. Obviously we're getting well over halfway through the season now, aren't we, Cam? Yeah, and as you can see, I'm joined yet again by Cam, and we were just saying just before we went on live as well that we actually did okay by our standards last week. Yeah, so we'll give
not too bad.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. You said it was better, right, than when you went on with Rory? It was a better effort.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, that was back in September, so that there were some dismal ones that weekend for both of us, I must admit.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the table's definitely settled down a lot more now, hasn't it? So I guess, yeah, you could say predictions are a little bit easier, but we still got a few badly wrong, didn't we? But yeah, so just before we start, just a little bit of admin. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the show. I can see there's already a few people checked in, so don't forget to leave us a comment as well. We want to know your predictions as well and see if it's in tune with ours this week. Yeah, don't forget as well, we're also in partnership with Bully News, Fantastic Runners Online, brilliant, which Cam also writes for as well. So
yes,
don't forget to check them out. And also don't forget we're also in sponsorship with Bundesliga Box as well. Rich's fantastic boxes. You can buy them, I think, round about once a month or once every 2 months they go live. So check out them as well. Well worth a trip, well worth a purchase as well for that. So yeah, Cam, without further ado, let's get stuck into match week 20. So it starts off with a pretty tasty tie on Friday evening, doesn't it, between two teams who've had good seasons, Werder Bremen and Mainz. So do you want to kick us off on that one?
Yeah, first of all, I know we said it last week, but how are we on match day 20 now?
It's mad.
It doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Yeah.
But I've got to miss this one tomorrow, and I'm gutted because it's looking like, for me, possibly the best game of the weekend.
Yeah.
Mainz beating Stuttgart last week. I mean, I think I predicted 2-0 to Stuttgart, to the visitors last weekend. But even without Burkhardt, it just shows yet again what a job Henriksen is doing at Mainz. I mean, I went to see them in person last year against Freiburg, and it's just a completely different side to Mainz compared to what we've seen in the last few years. And Nelson Viper, good for him to get on the score sheet as well. I know we mentioned him on the show last week as a sort of replacement for Burkhardt. He's had a torrid time with injury. I just think they're going along really nicely at the minute. But I do think it's going to be a tough game away at Bremen, who, yet again, have been very impressive this season. And I think their results so far in 2025 haven't told the full story in regards to them. An unfortunate loss away in Leipzig, where it was just one of those days that Leipzig decided to turn up, I guess, in front of goal. But a good point last weekend. I know they had the extra man, but coming back from 2 goals down is never an easy thing to do. So I think it's going to be a good game. Maybe not as high scoring, but I'm going to say 1-1.
Oh, interesting tip. Yeah. So I was starting off with a draw there. A few hellos as well. Guten Abend to Sim Senor, Sam as well. And hello to good old Gary Jones as well. So hi, guys, there. So, yeah, I think for me, I'm going to go for a draw as well in this one. But I think a slightly higher score. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in this one because I agree with a lot of what you said, Cam. I mean, Mainz are just a gift that keep giving, aren't they? They've just been superb this season. And I tend to find with Mainz, they're a real kind of, they really play well against the better teams as well. And I think Werder for me, they are a top half Bundesliga side this year, without doubt. And this is another game that they'll fancy. It'll be a great atmosphere up there in the Weserstadion and the fantastic city of Bremen as well. I'm sure, their fans will be trying to push them onto the first win of 2025. But it's not going to be easy against this excellent and well-drilled Mainz side. Let's not forget the form of Zentner as well, the goalkeeper, who, for me, I didn't really rate him before this season, but he's been outstanding this year. Really one of the best keepers in the Bundesliga. Danny Da Costa keeps playing well despite, his advancing years. And it's such a good team. And some of the guys you mentioned, Amiri does well in there. Sieb had a much better game last week as well, which was good to see. But Bremen also played well. The way they fought back, the fantastic strike from Bittencourt was well worth any highlight reel, wasn't it? And then a really good team move involving the likes of Jens Stage and Dux as well, getting the equaliser, and could even have won it, don't forget, at the end. Perhaps should have won it. So it was still a very good performance from Bremen, despite Dortmund being down to 10. So I think they've got enough quality to get a goal or two. I really like Gruel. I think Gruel continues to
play. Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, and he obviously got basically won the red card, didn't he, off Schlotterbeck last week with a good run forward, and probably would have scored if it wasn't for that push. And yeah, I think there will be goals. It should be. I'm totally with you, Cam, that it's going to be a good game to watch. This it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be open. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw under the line.
2-2. Okay. Yeah. Similar wavelengths then. Similar wavelengths.
Definitely. But I think if I was to pick a winner, I'd probably go Mainz, to be honest. I think if anyone was to nick it, I would say Mainz. But I still think a draw will be the fair result in this one.
I think, just on that, though, I think, again, it's a shame for Bremen, who have been, as I say, that their performances haven't told, the results, haven't told the story of 2025, really. So I almost felt bad if I was going to give them the loss. So I think a draw would be a fair result.
Yeah, I was on exactly the same wavelength as you for this one. I was tempted to go for a 2-1 Mainz, but I just thought Bremen are playing well too, and they still look a good team, and especially under the lights in a strong home crowd, I think they will get a point from this game. So yeah, let's have a look. One that's dear to you, Cam, as well. Obviously, Stuttgart. Just a word on them. Obviously, they did bow out of the Champions League just last night, which was unfortunate. I don't want to quite say bottled it, but I think, it didn't quite go the way you would have wanted against PSG, who comfortably won away from home last night to eliminate the VfB. But obviously back into Bundesliga action for this game in a match which they'll be expected to win, in this case, against a Gladbach side who obviously got back to winning ways last week, but maybe you would want to take that with a pinch of salt, considering it was only against Bochum, who are struggling down at the bottom of the league. But obviously, Gladbach do have quality. Kleindienst continues to play well, and he's really, really impressed me. I also think they defended a little bit better. The likes of Elvedi and Itakura looked a lot better last week against an admittedly blunt Bochum side. But for Stuttgart, this is a big game now. Obviously, coming in the back of two pretty comprehensive defeats. All of a sudden, if they lose this one, you will start thinking of the wheels falling off a little bit. So I think the onus is on Stuttgart to go out there and get a win. I don't think it's an easy one to tip this, in truth, but I have gone for a narrow Stuttgart win. I think they're going to get a 2-1 win here, but I don't think it's going to be easy. Cam, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the argument that now they're out of the Champions League, they can focus solely on the league, because I think the squad depth hasn't fully been there to balance the Champions League and the league this season, as well as a cup run, which they've got to the quarterfinals of. But I think it's the mental side of things now, because last night only happened because of the drop points against Sparta Prague and the dismal defeat in Belgrade. So they only have themselves to blame in that regard for somewhat silly dropped points when you then go away to Juventus and get 3 points. Should have got something against Real Madrid, ideally. So it's more the fact they need to bounce back from that. Whether it's too soon after last night. I mean, I don't know if you saw Angelo Stiller crying on the bench at minute 80 or something, whatever it was, when he got subbed off. It's all about that mental reaction now. And with a game against a Gladbach, it all depends on which Gladbach you get. Because as we discussed last week, they're a very temperamental side. 1 week they look like world beaters, and next week it's mid-table fodder again. But as you said, they've still got some quality in that team. So I actually went for the same result as you, a 2-1. I just think it's all about that mental reaction, because Stuttgart looked flat last night. They looked out on their feet by half time. I know there was a 3-goal deficit by them, but it was just so poor from the off, and it's about bouncing back from that now.
Yeah. I think you've got a lot of good points there. I think I do totally agree on the fact that they never really had the squad depth as well to compete on two fronts. And I think they did a good job probably before the last week, really. They'd done a good job to compete. But I think 3 Englische Woche in Folge, in a row, I think would prove to be too much for the VfB, really, because German teams, in the whole German society, they don't really like playing midweek games. They accept it for the Champions League, but for league games, they're really against it in general. And it is ironic they call it Englische Woche. It literally means English week, because the German people think only the Premier League plays on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, basically, which is quite, in some ways a little bit of a kind of a joke towards the English as well there, really. But yeah, definitely, it's going to be an interesting game. I think a few nice comments in as well. One from Chris. Yeah, I watched the Stuttgart reaction show last night. No offense to Cam, but I'd like Gladbach to add to their misery this weekend. Yeah, yeah, okay.
That's completely fair, Chris, I must admit.
Yeah. Obviously, we have got a lot of VfB fans on the show as well, obviously, too. We are quite well backed by the VfB. So, yeah, hopefully they'll get a win for you boys as well tomorrow. So, Cam, I'm going to let you lead off. Probably one of the more one-sided looking games of the weekend, Bayern Munich against Kiel.
That's the thing when you come on a show like this and it's Bayern at home, it's automatically, I wouldn't say an easy fixture to call, but it's one of those that you look at and there's a lot less talking involved, isn't there? I personally can't see anything other than a comfortable win, especially with how they demolished Kiel back at the start of the season. I know they were still adjusting to the league, but at the Allianz, I've just gone for a comfortable 4-0, to be honest. I don't think there's much that needs to be said other than I just want to ask what your thoughts are on the Matis Tell situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit sad, really, because obviously he came in with such big hopes, didn't he? But I never really feel as though it's worked out for him, to be honest, for Matis. Yeah, Bayern. I think he's got a lot of potential, but he's never been trusted. I think he was never fully trusted by Thomas Tuchel, and it's been the same by Vincent Kompany as well, hasn't it? He just seems to be a bench warmer, a perennial bench warmer, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, as for the game, I totally agree. I've gone for exactly the same score as you, Cam. Yeah. I just think, I don't think it'll get that ugly because we saw them play Slovan Bratislava and they only won 3-1, and a lot of people were tipping a really heavy score on that one. I just don't think this Vincent Kompany team is the kind of team that's going to roll teams over 6 and 7 and even 8-0. You know, I think. And Kiel as well are a much better team than when these two teams last met, as you mentioned. I think Kiel have learned. And last week we saw a really good and disciplined performance, even though clearly Wolfsburg have a much better team pretty much in every position than Kiel. They were able to kind of stick in there and get a really, really big and important point against the odds, really, didn't they? But this game will be too much because Bayern have simply got too much quality and too much experience in there. You know, we obviously seen Harry Kane get a couple of goals from open play, which will be big in the last week too, because a few people were starting to give him a bit of stick that he was a penalty merchant, weren't he? So, yeah, I think he'll be looking to get another goal or two in this one, and as will the likes of Elise and Sane and potentially Musiala as well. So definitely a comfortable win, I think, in this one. Yeah. Rory checking in as well. Have a cracker of a show, lads. Yeah.
Cheers, Rory.
Thanks for that. Nice comment. And then, Heidenheim, Borussia Dortmund. Yeah, I mean, probably before the 2025, you'd have said this was an easy away win, really, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But the way things are going for Dortmund with only one win in 2024-25 away from home, which ironically came at Wolfsburg just before the winter break. And it's absolutely shocking form on so many levels. You know, this will be their 10th away game of the season. They've only won one so far. And as a result, you can't say it's a banker, basically, with the form that Dortmund are on. And I didn't think they were like overly impressive against Shakhtar last night either. And,
I didn't get to watch that, but I've heard things saying similar.
Yeah, I saw the highlights, and it was just more of a workman-like performance against a team which they should be beating ultimately, you know. But away from home against Heidenheim, who need the points as well, because Heidenheim, the table isn't looking pretty for them right now. You know, they're 4 points adrift of fourth bottom, which means outright safety. And to be honest, you're still wondering where the goals are coming from. I mean, they were quite good against Augsburg last week, actually, and they probably deserved a point, all said and done. But it's just the way things are going when you're down at the bottom. Like, pardon the cliche, but things just don't go for you when you're down there. And obviously, looked like they'd rescued a really good point, and then they ship right almost at the death, don't they, and lose the game. But having said that, I'm going to go for a bit of a shock here, actually. I still feel as though Dortmund are just not looking good. Obviously, they have appointed Kovac as well, which we have to mention too. But I'm not sure we're going to see an immediate reaction. I mean, I'm not overly convinced by Kovac as a coach. I mean, I'm not even sure if he's going to man the bench as it comes to this game. But I've actually gone for a 1-1 here. I think that Frank Schmidt's team can dig in and perhaps get a goal from our friend Sir Lord Conte. What do you think, Cam?
Similar thoughts to you, really. It's difficult from a Dortmund perspective because you just keep thinking, oh, they're Borussia Dortmund, they'll turn it around at some point. But it doesn't seem to be even close to happening.
Yeah.
And like you said, is Kovac even going to be on the bench at the weekend? And he's not going to have had time anyway to instill anything tactically. So it's only going to be the same as what we've seen in recent weeks. I know you have the old adage of new manager bounce, so to speak, but I think a 1-1 draw is fair because Dortmund have got goals in them, as we've seen. But it's going to be a scrappy game, as it always is at the Voigt Arena. So I can see a difficult game for the visitors, and I agree with the 1-1 draw. And as you said, Heidenheim are there needing the points down the bottom end, so that would be vital for their season as well.
Yeah, definitely. That bottom three are going to have to start picking up points eventually after seeing, the likes of Pauli and even Hoffenheim pick up in recent weeks as well. Chris agrees. He thinks that Heidenheim are going to get something off Dortmund potentially as well. Yeah, I definitely think it's possible in this one. And I think they did get a draw against them there last season as well, which was the first league meeting at the Voigt Arena between these two teams. So I wouldn't be surprised to see history repeat itself there as well. Rory also thinks the VfB are going to get back, going to bounce back with a 3-1 win. Maybe 3-1's a little bit optimistic, at least according to us. So yeah, go on, Cam. You can lead out on Bochum Freiburg then.
Yeah, this is a weird one because Bochum, it's far from ideal, is it? I know there's still the things going on with the Union game and that situation from a couple of months ago before Christmas, but it's still far from ideal. And Freiburg have been a strange side this season because they look so impressive early on, and they've really, really started to peter out after Christmas. Ironically, that they seem more leggy now than they did before the winter break. But just nothing seems to be going for them in all areas of the pitch, really. And like we said last week, the question marks are there over Julian Schuster. It was always going to be a difficult job taking over from Streich, but I haven't been impressed with them in recent weeks, particularly against Stuttgart last Saturday, whenever it was. These games come too quickly at the moment. But that being said, I do think they have to win at some point, and I don't think it's going to be pretty. But I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for the visitors because I can't see Bochum getting anything. I think there's just too much of a difference in quality.
Yeah, I also thought long and hard about this one. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game, this one, but it's a game that both teams ultimately need a win because, it's not been a good 2025 so far for Freiburg, has it? Obviously losing 3 of the 4 games, and the only game they did get a win was a rather fortuitous win over Kiel, I felt, on the first game back, when, Kiel probably deserved a point in that game, in truth. Yeah.
I think they're in need of...
Sorry?
I think they're in need of a bit of a reset, to be honest, Freiburg, personnel-wise, because obviously they started the season with Junior Adamu up top, and it never really started to work out. No. But things have just automatically reverted to the same team that was being used under Christian Streich and what was being used for the last few years under Streich before he left. This is largely the same team that has been there for the last few years, really. And I think whilst you're seeing signings be made left, right, and centre each summer with the sides around them, look at how Mainz have refreshed and are in the top 6 at the moment. Wolfsburg, Bremen as well. I just think things are going a bit stale at Freiburg, where they were reliant on Grifo and Doan anyway. And as soon as that starts to dry up, there's big problems there. And I just think they're in a bit of a stagnation period at the moment.
Yeah, I think in my preseason predictions, I actually had them as low as 13th, I think.
Oh, really?
I just felt as though with the inexperience of Schuster, and also just, as you mentioned, Cam, you made some good points, that they just it's the same squad they roll out every year, basically. It's like, as you say, Adamu didn't work out, so they brought back Hurler again and Grigoric, and it's too samey, and I think... that, the likes of Kubler and Gunter and Ginter, they've been there for so many years now, and it's just, and then Höfler in midfield has been there decades, and Eggestein. Basically, they've had no real fresh up for 4 years or so now, basically, and I think they need it.
I know Osterhager arrived in the summer, and I liked him on match day 1 when I saw them against Stuttgart. Yeah. And I thought Merlin Röhl as well. I've liked the look of him sometimes, but his not kicked on as much as I
No,
expected.
no.
I
You
expected a lot
mentioned
better
those
from
names
him
well, yeah, because I think Osterhager is still going to be a player that does well, but he's not quite done it so far, has he? And he's found himself on the bench in recent weeks. Röhl is definitely going to be a big hope for the future, but he's just I don't really know why Schuster's not picking him more often, because he does still look pretty good when he plays, but I think that's the issue with Schuster. I think he wants the kind of hard working 11, just doing the same thing every week, and it's become too predictable. And they're very, very reliant on set plays to get goals, Freiburg. That's the other problem.
And that's
so as for this game, sorry.
Just one more point. Sorry, with Grifo getting on, that's your main set piece outlet. It is getting well past his best at this moment in time, and it's starting to dry up. So
it is. Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. So I've actually gone for a 1-1 here, because I just feel as though Bochum, it's probably still a more important game for Bochum because they travel so poorly. And but I can't see this being a pretty watch, to be honest with you. But I don't see either of these sides losing. I think the game might peter out for the last 20, 25 minutes, and both teams kind of reluctantly settle for a draw in a way in this one. That's how. But I can see a 1-0 either way as well, possibly. Yeah. So let's move on to an exciting looking game between two real form teams as well. I think this is one of the games I'm looking forward to this week. St. Pauli Augsburg. Obviously Pauli have won the last two with an aggregate of 5-0, which is really impressive. Obviously, finally breaking the goal scoring hoodoo by hammering Union Berlin last week with an impressive performance. The likes of Guilevogie was brilliant. I do like Noah Weishaupt as well.
Weishaupt,
well. He looks a class. He came from Freiburg, ironically, so you wonder why he can't get near their team, really. But and Augsburg too. I think Augsburg didn't play as well as they did against Union or Werder, but they still managed to get the result, which shows the confidence is building at the VVK Arena. And yes, Torup's men, they combine a nice kind of grit. They're mostly about grit, but they also have quality in there as well.
Yeah, it's a nice balance.
It really is, yeah. And I do like Onyeka as well on loan from Brentford. He provides a great engine in there too. So they're looking like a team that could be one to watch for the second half of the season. But having said that, Cam, I just feel as though what's going on at Pauli at the minute is really something special. And I think the home crowd there at the Bullen Tour could get them over the line here. So I've gone for a 2-1, but it should be a decent game, this one. Cam.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have imagined at the start of the season saying that St. Pauli Augsburg would be one of the games that I'm most looking forward to in a weekend, to be honest. But no, just echoing what you said on it. Pauli last weekend, I covered that game live, and just Noah Weishaupt, every time he got the ball, you just felt a sort of sense of anticipation in the ground, really. And the same, I mean, Guilevogie should have got on the score sheet a lot earlier than he did with that missed chance that was originally offside that he hit the bar with.
Yeah.
And I think they're starting to break that sort of home voodoo now. And I just think that's going to kickstart a bit of a run of wins at home, to be honest. And I also went for 2-1. We seem to have got quite a few similar scorelines today. Augsburg, as you said, another informed side, and have really turned things around from the start of the season when they were dismal for a few games, I must admit. There was the 4-0 against Heidenheim, wasn't there?
Yeah.
But I've been impressed with them going forward. Just the names you've mentioned, as well as Claude Maurice has been fantastic as well. And Onyeka's looked like a really smart bit of business. But I do think that little run's got to come to an end. And I think Pauli's will go on with a 2-1 win.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, some nice comments coming in as well. So Sam says, absolutely love the hipster derby. Yeah, we've got to make a petition to call Union St. Pauli the hipster derby. Yeah, I think it'll catch on a little bit, that one. And also I think some of the guys are chatting away too there. Yeah, are St. Pauli still classified as a hipster club, or is that phase past? So what would you say? I mean, you're in the UK, Cameron. Do they still have a lot of support over there in the UK, St. Pauli, or?
It depends on where. I've seen in one part of Birmingham, if you can't tell by my accent, I'm from the West Midlands. In one part of Birmingham, there are quite a few Pauli stickers, but I've never really seen them anywhere else, to be honest. I know they've got a big following in Scotland as well, in Glasgow. I know the Celtic friendships are on a bit of thin ice at the moment, but yeah, they are still classed as a hipster club in my opinion, and fair play to them.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think even here in Germany, they have fans all over the country, but it's mostly like people of a certain political persuasion who tend to side with Pauli, I would say, definitely.
I'm reading a very interesting book on the football club at the moment. Yeah, it's a very good read.
Yeah, what's it called? You can plug it if you like.
I actually can't remember. I really can't remember.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know next time you're on, because we do like football literature here on OTB.
Yeah, I think originally it was a Spanish book that's now been translated to English. So.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And then we got Sam as well. St. Pauli was rocking last week. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing they've got. I mean, they've always got that crazy good atmosphere, on the Reeperbahn. The stadium, if none of you know about this, but it's basically on the famous Reeperbahn as well, which is like the kind of party street in Hamburg. So, I mean, it's a great location. You can, watch the game and then hit the strip straight after, basically. So it's definitely well worth a visit for anyone visiting Hamburg over the next few weeks. Dan Green makes a controversial comment that Stuttgart become the new hipster club. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm interested to know. I'm actually interested in that. I'm interested to know why.
Yeah, come on, you got to let us know why, Dan.
Yeah, Dan, we need context.
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, they're too Schwabian to be a hipster, really. Part of
I've always thought of Freiburg being a bit of a hipster club, to be honest. They have a very unique way of doing things down there, don't they?
Yeah, they definitely do. Yeah, and Ben, it's not the Reeperbahn, like the actual German, they say like Reeperbahn. It almost sounds like the word that. But yeah, the English people, because they don't get the A sound, the A with the two dots on it, basically. So we call it like the Reeperbahn or whatever. Yeah, it's but yeah, the Germans do say the Reeperbahn, which is quite ironic as well. But yeah, anyway, let's have a look. So moving on, we got the top spiel, haven't we, on a Saturday evening? So yes. Cam, you can lead us out on that one.
Union, just back onto the hipster club debates again. Union, just nothing seems to be going for them, to be honest. I thought whilst they got the shock win against Mainz, they were just so devoid of any life again against St. Pauli, and just from minute one didn't really look at it. And I can just see that happening again this weekend. Whilst, yet again, we discussed last week about how temperamental Leipzig can be. I can't see anything but an away win. But I don't think it's going to be high scoring. Obviously, Union don't concede many, aside from last weekend. So I've just gone for a 2-1 to the visitors, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I mean, Union just don't score, and they barely create as well. That's the bigger problem. It's not like they're missing chances left, right, and centre. Like they look a desperately poor side, Union, to be honest. I mean, for me, they're not completely out of the relegation race by any means yet. Because you got to remember, they started really well too. So, I mean, it doesn't seem to be working out at all at the minute for a Stefan Baumgart, who I actually thought would go in there and do something. I thought he'd rally them, but he's done anything but that. So, yeah, I've gone for a 3-0 here, actually. I just don't think it's going to end well for Union. We know that normally in this game, Union do tend to do quite well, but I just don't see them having anything in this team at the minute. But we'll put your prediction on there, Cam, as a starter. So yeah, another probably one of the games of the weekend, really, in terms of two well-matched teams, both very good sides, over in the kind of commercial banking city of Frankfurt against the, for me, still on form Wolfsburg side, even though they've not won in the last two games. I still feel as though they're playing pretty well, and that boy Amura just keeps giving, doesn't he? I also like the look of Skov Olsen as well, who was the new signing.
I thought that was a really smart bit of business.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, they got him from Brugge, who were in the Champions League. So, I mean, that was some signing, wasn't it? But yeah, for me, I think Wolfsburg is still a very good team, especially going forward. I think defensively, they probably concede a few too many goals, potentially for Champions League qualification, but they're still a good side to watch. And, I think they've actually got the joint most goals in for and against combined of any team in the league at the minute. So they are a good team to watch. But for Frankfurt, I wasn't that impressed with them last week, to be honest, but that was partly to do with the fact that I think Hoffenheim really improved the game, and I think they played really well. And in truth, Frankfurt were quite lucky to even get a point. If you watch the flow of that game, I felt as though Hoffenheim were better. A few decisions went the way of Frankfurt too. I felt as though the penalty was soft, in truth. And I think a few of the other decisions too kind of went against the home side in that one. But still, Frankfurt is still a good team. Potentially the new striker might be involved in this game as well, having had a week to train now. But I think this is going to be a very watchable 2-2 draw for me. I think it's going to be a good game, an open game, but both sides will ultimately cancel each other out. Cam?
Yeah, I went for a 2-2 draw again as well, to be honest. So we'll get more into Hoffenheim in a moment, talking about the next game. But they were a lot better last weekend. Massive improvement. But yet again, Frankfurt were a lot poorer than what we've seen in recent weeks, particularly when they had that big win against Freiburg not that long before. Big win again against Dortmund. But the test now is to life without Marmoush. Of course, he's literally carried them through most parts of the first half of the season. But that being said, they are still a good side and they've got quality. But Wolfsburg are a big test. Like you said, still in form, really. I don't think that, similar to Bremen, really, where the results haven't told the full story. In recent weeks, they've still been playing good stuff, but I think that's to be expected under Hasenhüttl. So I think it'll be an entertaining game, and yet again, just one that I'm looking forward to. I think there's some cracking games this weekend, really, in terms of entertainment value. So, yeah, I'm going for a 2-2.
Yeah, that's definitely on one of the games to watch this weekend. Yeah, two good attacking, entertaining teams, definitely. And talking of two good attacking, entertaining teams, Cam, I mean, obviously we've not seen it all season for Hoffenheim, but just recently I feel as though they've clicked a little bit better. So what are you going for Leverkusen, Hoffenheim then?
This was a difficult one because obviously looking at Hoffenheim's form, I thought they were still quite good against Tottenham, even though they lost.
Yeah.
But I've had to go for Leverkusen to win, and I've gone 3-1 purely because they don't concede a boatload of goals and they still score goals. And even when they just don't lose games, do they? You're never going to a game thinking that they're going to lose. I mean, they've lost one this season. That's one in God knows how many games now, how long the record's been going on. So at the worst case scenario for Leverkusen, I could see a draw if Hoffenheim keep up this good form. But I just think with the champions at home and the form that some of their players are in, and now Boniface is staying as well, which is more confusing with Jean Durand going to Al Nassr now. I just think it's going to be not so comfortable as probably what would have been expected over a month ago with Hoffenheim, but still comfortable enough. So 3-1.
Yeah, we match up again, actually, Cam. I think this will be a good game, but ultimately Leverkusen, they're just such a good football team, aren't they? I mean, obviously, the fact that they got through in the Champions League too very comfortably, we talk about pressure that Stuttgart couldn't hack, but like Leverkusen did it laughably easily against Prague. I mean, I know it's a different standard of opposition between PSG and Sparta, but I mean, obviously Stuttgart failed to beat Prague as well, which ultimately cost them. I just feel as though Jabi has just worked miracles with this team, and it's an extremely good squad of players that he's built there too. And I still believe they're in the title race. Yeah, they were a little bit unlucky last week not to win at Leipzig. I thought they were by far the better team at the Red Bull Arena last week, but wasn't quite to be in that game. But through in the Champions League, still in the cup, and for me, they will get a pretty comfortable win against an improving but not quite there yet Hoffenheim team, I think. Gary asks as well, are you going to a game this weekend, Mark? No, I'm actually not going to a game, unfortunately, this week. But there will be more vlogs coming up. I did get a few tickets for games just today, actually, for the next few weeks. So, keep your eyes peeled on that. Some good chat as well in the comments as well, which is fantastic to see. A few tips from some of you guys too. Gary puts his tips there as well. Some similar to us. Yeah, you've not put a Leverkusen Hoffenheim on there. But yeah, you've gone for quite a few very similar to us, actually. I think only the BVB to win in Hoffenheim. Heidenheim is and also Union getting a point against Leipzig. I'm not sure about that, I'm afraid, Gary. But yeah, and Alan Michaels as well saying that he thinks St. Pauli will hold Augsburg to a 1-1 draw, Union to beat Leipzig 1-0. There's a lot of love for Union in the comments, but unfortunately I can't quite concur at all with your Union hype at this case. Yeah, but definitely a lot of good games to watch this weekend. So let's just firstly look at the table before we close up. So it's going to be still Bayern Munich holding a 6-point lead from Leverkusen, but quite a big gap then, 7 points to third place Frankfurt, with VfB Stuttgart completing the Champions League places as for now. And then at the bottom, it's once again Bochum, Kiel, but Heidenheim potentially pulling a point back to Hoffenheim if they can get a point against the BVB this weekend. So yeah, once again, Cam, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thanks for your
thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
hopefully, I mean, we got some right last weekend, and now being as we practically got the exact same. If we both get it wrong, then
definitely. I mean, we did give you a few correct scores last week, so come on, guys, you got to stick your money on it. Stick 20 quid on a accumulator of all those scores, and send us a bit of the cash if you win as well.
my betting luck is awful, so please don't. I don't condone that, because you'll just be throwing your money away if you listen to me in that regard.
Cam's not allowed to bet, but you guys can. So fantastic, guys. So the next show will be tomorrow with the fantasy show. So check in with Rory and Runa at 9:30 European time. That'll be 8:30 UK time. So an early start for that. And then we'll be back once again for the next week's pod on Monday. So check out our audio services for that. So thank you very much, guys. Thanks for all your comments, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye, guys.